You want to automate APIs with Playwright but don't know where to start? So let me show you how to do that. It's actually very simple. So first of all, navigate to nodejs.org. You will need to install Node.js. So click on Install Node.js, download it and install on your computer. After that, create a new empty folder anywhere on your computer and open this folder in new terminal. Then run this command in this terminal: npm init playwright at latest. After execution of this command, just answer everything by default yes. So Playwright will ask you, do you want TypeScript? Yes. Do you want to use test folder? Yes, and so on and so forth. Just click enter, enter, enter. And after you're done this, you will have a sample project generated by the Playwright that would look like this. Open it in Visual Studio Code and you're pretty much ready to go. So under the test folder, you will see example.spec.ts. That's the sample test file that you can start with. Test number 1, test number 2. This is the body number 1, body number 2. You can see this test is configured to run UI test. Playwright is using a thing called fixture, page fixture. So this page fixture is responsible for opening a new browser page and do whatever operations you need on this browser page. But for API automation, we don't need page. So for that, we have a different fixture, which is called request fixture. And with the request fixture, you can make API requests. So using this example, let's make a simple get request, and I will show you how to use this fixture. So we don't need page fixture. I just remove it and I remove all this stuff. We don't need it. I'm gonna keep this test as our placeholder. So where would you start? Await request dot, and then you have methods inside of the request. So if you want to make get request, you call get method. If you want to make post request, you make post method. Patch, put, delete, and so on. So let's start with the get request. Which example we will use for this demonstration? Here, Conduit Bondar Academy. Let's look into the networking tab for this app and take the very first API request, for example, for the tags endpoints. This is a get request tags endpoint. So let's use it as our demo. I take the tags and inside of get request, I just paste this URL that I want to call. And that's it. Look, if I run it, it's already working. 128 milliseconds took to run this single line. So Playwright already sending requests. Now we need to process the response. Then you assign the result to some constant or variable. For example, response equals to, and then from this response, I need to extract the JSON object. So I type const response object equals to await response dot method JSON. So with the method JSON, you can get the JSON object that is coming back. And let's print it out to the console.log, and I print out the response object and running this test. Running this test, here we go. We have a response object that is printed out. And after that, we can make the assertions. To make assertions in the Playwright, you can use a built-in assertion library, which is expect. And we can call our response object that has property tags inside tags, and this is the array. So I take the first value of array. We see it should be a test, and I type to equal test, and I run this test again, and test passed successfully. And let's write one more validation. For example, expect that our response object tags and the amount of tags, we have 10 values. So let's to have, for example, length of 10. Like this, and I'm running this test again, and this test passed successfully. If I mess with this test around, and let's say I change to 9 and run this test, and the test failed expectedly. Look, received length 10, but expected length 9. So assertion working successfully and test working successfully. So that's that's the approach. You basically have 3 steps in any API test. First, you make a request. Second, you make the extraction of the JSON object with the JSON method. And the third step is making the validations of your response. That's basically the whole thing about API testing. You send request, validate response, send request, validate response. That's it. And let me show you just one more example. This was the very simple GET request. Let me show you how to make a POST or PUT request. I copy this thing and, for example, sample POST request. So the same thing here, we need to change GET to POST because it will be a POST request. And let's find in our application example for the POST request. So I will create a new article. Let me type any random values, right click, inspect, network, publish the article, and this is the request for the POST request. So POST request, this is the URL. And now I just simply copying the values inside of our request. So this is the POST request. For the POST request, we need a payload as well and authorization header because this is authorized request. So I need to paste the headers into authorization. So where would you put that stuff? Put the comma over here after the URL, then start a new object, and within this new object you can put different parameters, so such as headers. This is another object and we will use authorization. No, let's do this. Authorization, and the value for authorization will be, going back, this is the token, paste the token. And then, wow, that's a huge token. Okay. And then we need to add request object. And in Playwright, it's called as data. So I paste this object and let me find this payload over here. So this is my payload. I'm copying it here, going back and pasting it right here. So I guess that's it. So URL, authorization header, payload that I'm sending to the API, and we can send the request. So let me send like test. Test will be title for the article. Response object, I will remove the assertions because the response will be different, and we will see the response object. It should, at least we should see the response object sending the request, and the request was successful. You can see the new article was created. If I go back to the test application, click over here, here we go, test article using API was created. Well, guys, and that's pretty much it. This is how easy you create your API test in Playwright. You call get, post, put, or delete methods depending on operation that you want to do. For the get request, it's very, very simple. Just send request, validate the response, make the assertions. For the post request, you need maybe headers and data that you send as your payload. And the same way, you extract the JSON and then validate the response. You can also chain the commands. For example, we send the post request, and then after that we can send get request to validate that the article that was created before is there. But that's more about the scenarios, right? That's not about the scripting anymore. It's more about scenarios. So yeah, it's very, very simple. So if you have just a handful of tests to automate, just go with this route, automate those scenarios and you are done. If you need to automate more than that and your application is more sophisticated, you need to generate some test data, make a schema validations and all that fun stuff, you can build some other test frameworks around the Playwright using this approach. And for example, I built my own approach to API testing using Playwright using this approach. For example, you provide path, you provide parameters that way, you make a get request with a custom getter and all that stuff. And then your test would look nicely organized. I have a custom should match schema method to validate the schema. And the test looks nicely and more compact, and for example, random data generator and all that stuff. And here are my custom utils such as schema validator, request handler, custom expect assertion data generator, and so on. But again, if you need to run just something very simple, just use built-in tools that isn't Playwright. If you need to automate something more complex, you may need to build something more sophisticated like this. If you want to learn how to build the framework like this, check the link in the description below. I have a course where where I teach how exactly step by step to build this stuff like this. It is a very good training to get an advanced programming skills. All right, so I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, write them down below, put the likes and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.